With just 3 events to go in the regular season on the Korn Ferry Tour, the road to French Lick is heating up. Hello and welcome once again to the Road to French Lick, a show chronicling the 2024 Korn Ferry Tour season. I'm Ryan Balgi. Thanks for being with us once again. We have plenty to catch you up on with 3 tournaments happening since our last show. We also have 2 guests for you this week. Brian Campbell, the University of Illinois product who now finds himself inside the top 10 on the Korn Ferry Tour point standings, and Chris Montagano, who is the MV5 Invitational Tournament Director, host of the last tournament on the Korn Ferry Tour schedule outside of Chicago in Glenview, Illinois. As mentioned, we had 3 tournaments since our last show in episode 6. We're now in episode 7, so we catch up on those results. The first tournament was the Ascendant, played at TPC Colorado at Elevation in Colorado, and that tournament was won by Mr. 57 himself, Cristobal del Solar, who did not wind up winning the tournament where he shot a record-setting 57 earlier this year on the Korn Ferry Tour in Chile, but he winds up winning by 4 shots here in this tournament on 22 under, 266 over the aforementioned Brian Campbell and Matthew Rydell. Next tournament was a long-standing event on the Korn Ferry Tour schedule, the Price Cutter Charity Championship at Highland Springs Country Club in Springfield, Missouri. That tournament was won by Matt McCarty. He won by 3 shots over former PGA Tour winner and big break contestant Tommy Gainey on 25 under, 263. And our most recent event, the aforementioned NV5 Invitational at the Glen Club in Glenview, Illinois. That tournament was won by Germany's own Thomas Rosenmueller, who won by 2 shots over Carl Phillips on a similar total to the Price Cutter Charity Championship at 25 under, 259. Now let's hear from 2 of our last 3 champions, Cristobal del Solar and Thomas Rosenmueller.
Everything is kind of just coming together, and that's what I've been, wanting to happen for, a while. So, I don't know. I'm just happy that all the work that I've put in, it's kind of paying off, and career is just starting from this point on. I want to be on the PGA Tour. I want to stay on the PGA Tour. I want to be one of the best players in the world. So, this is just a start. So.
It's unbelievable. It's a lot of weight coming off my shoulders, especially thinking that I made the wrong decision last fall to not play Q School when I was playing well, and really try to rebuild a little bit and make improvements that are eventually going to pay off. But it clearly shows it was worth it. All the work that I've put in, it's nice to see it finally pay off.
With his win in the MV5 Invitational, Thomas Rosenmueller cracks into the top 15 in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings, currently sitting 15th on the number, giving himself a very good chance to be one of the 30 players to earn a PGA Tour card at the end of the season through the Korn Ferry Tour Championship in French Lick, Indiana. Our other 2 winners of recent note, Cristobal del Solar is now 6th on the points list, in very good shape to have a PGA Tour card next season, practically assured, along with Matt McCarty, who sits in 7th in the point standings. We now take a look at the top 5 in the point standings, with Solar and McCarty on the outside looking in of that top 5. Our points list leader continues to be Stephen Fisk, who is having one of the most consistent seasons in Korn Ferry Tour history. He has 1,569 points. Tim Vieding is 2nd on the list and continues in that place at 1,490 points. Max McGreevy is 3rd on the points list at 1,372 points. Harry Higgs is 4th on that list with 1,240 points. And Taylor Dixon rounds out our top 5 at 1,230 points. Brendan Sweeney joins me, and he's been on the road for us, covering the NV5 Invitational in Glenview, Illinois at the Glen Club. Brendan, thanks for being here. What did you see out at the NV5 Invitational, and does anything feel a little bit different now coming to events closer to the end of the regular season on the Korn Ferry Tour, as opposed to the events earlier in the year?
I tell you what, it's always good. I grew up in Chicago in the suburbs, Medina, Illinois, to be exact. It's always good going back home. Had a cool lunch in the city, and then took Lakeshore Drive straight up, went past Loyola University, went past Northwestern, and headed right to the Glen Club, which is a fabulous track, and pulled right in there. And having a background with the guys at the Western Golf Association, it was good to see a lot of familiar faces, and being on the road with Golf Newsnet and doing the Road to French Lick show over this last season. the faces on the range are becoming familiar. They're starting to get a vibe of what we got, what we have, what we're trying to do. 500,000 people have clicked on your site to watch this show, and so it's pretty cool. There's really nobody else following the Korn Ferry Tour like we are, and then the guys know it. And coming in from French Lick, we're coming off the riding the wave of the good guys. They always bring it up. It's like, holy cow, we're looking forward to coming to that place. It looks really cool. So, yeah, with that being said, things are starting to get a little bit more serious. Not that they weren't serious before, but guys are fighting for that 150 spot. They're fighting for the 144 spot. They're fighting for the 120 spot, to make it through the playoffs and eventually top 75 make it to the championship. So your bubble guys, the guys in the 60s on the money list, the guys in the 80s, the guys, hovering around, Bryson Nimmer. He played well and he shot up. So he's like 151. And we played golf with him in Hilton Head at the beginning of the season. And my gosh, he had so much talent that you're thinking, how come he's not on tour? And then you'll go out on the range and you see these guys. It's like, holy cow. Some of the cool experiences that we've had so far, our young Will, he just won the Junior Am with the PGA of America. So yeah, it's been an interesting run, but seeing some of these guys come up and seeing some of the players really start to get traction. Someone like Joe Wheeler, who went to Purdue, he's a Bloomington, Indiana guy. He shot up to 64. He tied at T20 this week. So anybody who plays hot has a chance to jump up that spot to make it to the playoffs. So yeah, had some good conversations with some players out there, which we'll see later on today. Touch base with Brian Campbell. Spoke to Rob Oppenheim on the range. Saw some cool guys I knew from Chicago playing in the Pro-Am. So it was good. It was a fun week. We're looking forward to the playoffs. We got 3 events left on the Korn Ferry Tour, and then the playoffs start. And things start clipping along, and before you know it, we're going to be done with the Korn Ferry season. So it's good.
We'll talk about Brian Campbell for a second. He's now inside the top 10 of the points list. They haven't given him the designation yet that he can't be caught and can't be kicked out of the top 30, but he has practically assured himself a PGA Tour card for next season. UI guy. Obviously, you have connections to the program. What kind of sense do you get that, especially knowing from Mike Small, that this guy was going to be something special, and this guy's got an opportunity to do some great stuff, not only this season, but also beyond to the PGA Tour?
Confidence. I asked him straight up, I said, what's the secret sauce? And he said, time, effort. You don't become an overnight success. It takes time and it takes maturity, and he's mature and he's put his time in. He got hurt in the past. He overcame adversity through injury. And just seeing it in his eyes that, he's number 8 on the list. He's got to, just cruise along and get through it. We'll still with keeping the hammer down, play conservatively, but smart. But what a great young man. I've known him since he's been, a freshman in college. So, 10 years. And he's put his time in, and he sees what the light is at the end of the tunnel, and he's going to get his card. And it's going to be cool to see a guy that you saw as a kid approach his greatness, especially in our own backyard. So I'm looking forward to seeing Brian down the road.
And it matters where you finish in the top 32, by the way. We talked about getting into that top 30, getting your cards, but with the PGA Tour being more competitive than ever, having designated events, having a different schedule than we've known traditionally, it means a lot to be in that top 10, top 15 of the Korn Ferry Tour finishers. You might get a card being 16th through 30th, but it's going to be hard for you to get started. So for Brian, for Stephen Fisk, who's number 1 of the points list, having an incredible year, there's a lot of value to staying number 1 as well. You're fully exempt. You're outside the reshuffles. So even though we were talking about top 30 at the end, there are lots of numbers you mentioned earlier to play for. 156 to get in, 144 to the next round, get in the 120, get in the top 75, get in the top 30. There are lots of numbers for lots of different players right now. They've got to be able to check the box off of to know that they're going to keep going in this season after 3 weeks from now.
Well, you saw on the PGA Tour this year with the designated events and the signature events, certain players are not getting in. So yeah, the higher you are on your status, and that's why you're going to see the top 30 players still going strong on the Korn Ferry Tour, because they're fighting for that top 10, top 15 status on the Korn Ferry Tour, and that's going to make a difference, especially when it comes down to who's getting into the events. And if you're not in the top 50 you're not getting on the PGA Tour. You're not going to get in all the signature events. So,
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of shuffling going on, and these guys are playing hard, and things are getting real out there.
We've had 3 events on the schedule since we've last talked and done an episode of the Road to French Lick. Yeah, Cristobal del Solar, Mr. 57 win at the Ascendant out in Colorado. He shot 57 earlier this year on the tour, lowest ever recorded score in a Korn Ferry Tour event, a PGA Tour sanctioned event, and he didn't win that tournament. Finally gets his win. He's in great shape for a card for next year. You got Matt McCarty, who won the Price Cutter Charity Championship, long-running event, won this tour. And then you had Thomas Rosenmueller win the MV5 Invitational, which you were at out in Glenview, Illinois. Still have 3 events left on the schedule, and there have been a lot of first-time winners. That happens on this tour quite frequently. But there's still opportunities for players, like you said, for Bryson Nimmer, who had a T11 last week, to move significantly up the point standings. All you need is kind of one big week, one top 5, one top 3, one win, and that can change your entire trajectory of your career. So what are you looking forward to in these last 3 events as we get to the playoffs?
I tell you what, there's a lot of people out there. You look at someone like Russell Knox, who's been on the tour, and someone like Rob Oppenheim, who needs to get on the tour. He's like, what is he, 40? He's 49th. If he could get hot, I mean, that could change his career forever. I mean, he's in his 40s. He gets on the PGA Tour. Next thing you know, he's on the Champions Tour, and this path could be his highway to success. And a lot of guys are running out of runway. They're running out of tournaments. They're running out of opportunities. I mean, you're one injury away from, if I take a week off, there's only 2 weeks left after that. So now what? So it's exciting. I never really thought when we started this journey that I'd be this much into it. And all the guys have been super. They've been wonderful, and working with you has been great. So with that being said, we still have a lot of work to do on our side. Operationally from the French Lick side of hosting the championship. And we've got a great team working with that, and we got a great team working with you. So it's going to be a good run. Looking forward to it.
Well, we've got 3 tournaments left in the regular season. Then we've got 3 tournaments in the playoffs. Then before you know it, we're getting together in French Lick, Indiana to talk about getting 30 PGA Tour cards out to players for next year. So before you know it, we're going to be closing down this season, and it's coming pretty quickly. So, Brendan, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being on the road with us, and we'll see you real soon.
All right. Be well. Thanks, Ryan.
Our first guest this week on the Road to French Lick is Brian Campbell. The University of Illinois product is having a great season on the Korn Ferry Tour, and after the NV5 Invitational just outside of Chicago, finds himself at 8th place in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings, virtually assuring himself a spot on the PGA Tour next year. Our Brendan Sweeney was at the event and caught up with him to talk about the season and what he's got down the road.
ILL.
I, baby.
How's it going, man?
It's good.
Good. Tell us about the journey this year. You're having a fabulous year.
Yeah, it's, a little bit of a surprise, but I'm just happy to be honestly playing golf healthy again. This year I was really just excited to be back out playing golf again. And, I think when you just keep your head down and focus on the right things, you start to have some success. So I saw that early in the season, which was very nice to see, and just kind of snowball affected, and the rest of the season just keep doing what I'm doing.
So you've been out here for a few years now. What made it click for you? Was there like an aha factor that came about?
Yeah, I mean, I went through about 2 or 3 years of an injury, and it definitely puts things in perspective in terms of, how you can have success personally. I kind of had to get back to my roots, essentially. The stuff we did in college, the stuff I used to do, the stuff I did when I was a little kid. You got to go back to those things and just stick to it, really.
Going back to your roots, you went to school down in Champaign.
Yeah.
What's it like coming back here to the Chicagoland area and having some good Illinois backing for you?
Oh yeah, it's always a blessing to come back here, and just the vibes. I have a bunch of friends nearby. Just went and played somewhere with a good buddy of mine. Always have the best fans out here this week, and even in Springfield, Illinois. But yeah, I just love coming back.
That's awesome. Any go-to hot spots for you for the Chicago grub scene?
I'm not too knowledgeable on that. I need some advice is what I need. But Portillo's, you got to hit up Portillo's at least once.
Got to go deep. Now they're franchised. That's unfair.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, hey, man, we wish you the best of luck. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On your success, and next year is going to be awesome. We look forward to seeing you down in French Lick.
That's right.
And hopefully get some of your Illini boys to come follow you and follow you on the PGA Tour, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
We're excited to share we have a new sponsor here on the road to French Lick. It's Upland Brewing from Bloomington, Indiana. Obviously a home state brewery with the French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana. And they have created, just specially for us, at the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, a Belgian white ale called Birdie Beer, which will be available at the tournament as well as their brewery. Can't wait to have some and talk about it on the show with Upland Brewing here on the program. Our second guest this week on the road to French Lick is Chris Montagano, who is the tournament director for the MV5 Invitational, which was last week's Korn Ferry Tour event at the Glen Club in Glenview, Illinois. He talks with our Brendan Sweeney about hosting a Korn Ferry Tour event, having the best and brightest coming to their event every single year, and what it means to be a part of the road to French Lick.
What's it like working with the WGA and the Evans Scholars and everybody else around here?
It's a great organization. I tell people all the time I've got one of the coolest jobs in the world. I get to run a professional golf event right here in Chicago. But when I can see what good it does to the Western Golf Association and the Evans Scholars Foundation, sending deserving caddies to college, it's a pretty cool deal.
God, how long have you been doing it?
So I've been with Western Golf for just over 8.5 years. I've been running the NV5 Invitational presented by Old National Bank here in Chicago since 2019.
Old National is a solid Indiana-based company. They moved up to Chicago a couple years ago. They love their golf. What's it like working with their team?
Oh, they're fantastic. They love golf. They're huge fans of the Evans Scholars Foundation. Makes it really, really easy to work with. They understand what we're trying to do with the tournament. They buy into it. So it's been great to have them on board.
Now, Chicago is just a sports-starved town. They need some winners. We love local guys who do great things. Having the Evans Scholars and having the local kids somehow involved with this, it has to mean something for someone with Chicago roots.
Absolutely. It's a huge selling point. I mean, when we look at this event being in the heart of the summer now, there's so much to do in Chicago, but when you tie it to such a great cause, it certainly helps us get people out here.
Now, getting people out here, what's it like? How's your volunteer corps?
It's great. We've got somewhere between 250 and 300 volunteers. They love coming back. We get so many of them to come back year after year, just to be a part of again, really the only annual professional golf event in Chicago these days.
Well, we look forward to having a great week. We thank you for your hospitality and best of luck.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Each week on the road to French Lick, we take a look at 2 holes on the Pete Dye Golf Course at French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana, host of the Korn Ferry Tour Championship presented by United Leasing and Finance. This week, we take a look at the treacherous crowned par 3 13th hole with a huge green and the very difficult uphill par 5 14th with a notorious split fairway. Here's Will Haskett with more.
The 13th hole is one epic par 3. It's a long par 3 with a perched Redan-style green, and it is certainly dangerous. Left of the green is a huge waste area, and at the end is a deep greenside bunker with a face that is 12 feet high. Short is a steep drop, so if that ball does not rest on the green, it likely rolls back to the bottom of the slope. Green slopes away right to left as well. Play for the center and plan to hit it there, because if you don't, it will be a short game test. The 14th hole is a great par 5 that involves a split fairway. You may be able to save 100 yards or so by going up the right side of this split hole, but you are faced with a slope on the approach to the green that is over 90 feet high. The green here falls off sharply on all sides, so accuracy is a premium coming up on your third shot, which may determine what you do with your second shot. A lot of choices and some risk and reward here at the 14th.
That'll do it for us this week on the road to French Lick. Thanks so much for spending some time with us and watching once again in our 7th episode. We'll be back with another episode soon as we lead into the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, the 4-event series that culminates in a 75-player field taking on the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana, with 30 cards doled out for the PGA Tour season in 2025 to the top 30 players in the standings on the Korn Ferry Tour points list at the end of that tournament. We'll be there live on Golf News Net TV to bring you that event and coverage of it from Indiana. Till our next episode, for everyone at the French Lick Resort and everyone at Golf News Net, I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.